Hi everybody, I'm Sawd,
And I'm Punk.
and I'm definitely
not Popufur.
Popufur. Oh, we almost, we were off on the
close.
start. I know, in my earbuds, there's like a little delay on the Bluetooth. It sounded like we were perfectly in sync. I think finally after 11 fucking episodes.
Yeah. Getting closer.
Yeah, one day we will be perfect harmony. We will be sharing one brain. It'll be great. But anyway, you're listening to I'm Definitely Not a Popufur. It's the podcast where every single episode we invite someone on to walk us through their journey into the furry fandom. Given that I'm so new at this, Punk has been at this for so long, and anyone can start from anywhere. I love collecting these stories. I love having them, and as always, we are blessed with an incredible guest. Our guest today is someone who I'm stoked to have because their story and my story are actually pretty similar. They're a lot more recent than some of the more recent guests that we've had, which is fantastic. This is someone who has worked corporate jobs but became into the fandom fairly recently, and after much consternation, they didn't just become a furry. No. They went paw to the pedal floor fast into it, okay? They are a musician, they are a streamer, they are a social media personality, and they are a self-taught fursuit maker to boot. If everyone could please put your paws together for Rorschach! Rorschach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I have never in my life been called a social media personality, so that's a first for me.
Well, welcome to the big leagues. It's a fantastic time. We have a velvet rope. There is some caviar on a platter. It's really great. Well, it is interesting because I have been following some of your stuff for a while, but it really was when I saw some of your corporate crash out videos that you've had as of late, talking about kind of like the experience of going from a fur con back into corporate America that kind of really caught my eye. But from what I understand is that you posted a lot about yourself. You posted a lot about your journey on here. And if you don't mind, if we could get into it here, you seem to come from this place where you may have technically been furry before you had a name for it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think, no, that's probably accurate.
Okay.
I had always been like art adjacent, but always kind of thought I just thought the art was kind of like nifty, but never really engaged with it deeply. And then I think kind of like everybody who's like on the periphery of furry and hasn't like dove into the deep end sees the fursuits and the cons and stuff, and they're like, "That's weird. Like, I'm not about that. That's not
Right.
what I'm interested in. I just think the art is kind of cute and like this is kind of cool." And then yeah, like it just took like exposure therapy and everything. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I am full on into this shit at this point in my life.
It was just kind of crazy too, because it's the thing where, and I gotta just briefly tell the story a little bit, where you had mentioned a little bit that you had kind of into it, and I believe Disney films were, I think, a very formational aspect of your life, but even then it was you had a love of animal characters, maybe not necessarily furry, way back in the day when you were a kid, right?
For sure. And then I mean Disney was definitely a thing. I vibed way too hard with Simba for that to be normal as a little kid.
Uh-huh.
And then I didn't ever even actually see the show. I think I just saw trailers and a couple of clips of it, or of Fievel Goes West. And I remember having these names, and I was I just wanted to be Fievel. I don't know, just really vibed with that. And then I don't know, other characters and stuff. And then, I don't know how can we talk about literally anything on this podcast? Nothing is off limits.
1,000%, yeah.
Okay, cool. Because 100%. It was 100% porn at one point too when I was in college, and I can't remember what it was that I saw it the first time. I think I saw Fox in the Stable or something like that, and I was that's fucking weird, dude. I'm not about that. And then a day later, I was maybe it was kind of cool, and then went back to it, and then I was oh, I kind of like that, and then it was that kind of sidelined me into furry, the porn's kind of nice. And then but why do I like this? That's weird. I'm not a furry, that's disgusting, but maybe it's just a thing that I can just have by myself. And then at some point way after the fact, I was I have all this stuff on my phone. And then at one point I was paying for a Patreon, but still I'm not a furry. And then that was when my husband, this was a year ago, January, I think. What year is it? 2026. Yeah, so 2025.
Yeah.
January 2025 was when so I made videos and stuff about this. I'm going to rehash a bunch of my videos, so I apologize. But
that is okay.
My kind of breakthrough moment was I had left a Sigma X image on my phone, and my husband always takes my phone in our house because he's the one who maintains all the like smart home shit in our house, and that involves like he installs new apps and stuff on my phone, or he like keeps everything up to date, or he like installs new like routines and stuff. So like if I yell at my Google Home, it'll like turn on my office lights and stuff. So he's the one who maintains all that. And at one point he grabbed my phone to update it, and I had the last thing that I had looked at on my phone was like some Sigma X porn thing that I had left on my phone. And he like 5 minutes later, he handed me my phone back and like looking very, very confused. And I was like, kind of grabbed my phone back from him. I was like, what's going on? And he just looks at me and he's like, are you a furry? And I went, I was like, why would you ask that? No, like not at all. Like that's not a thing. And he was like, well, that was on your phone. And I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of thought it was kind of hot, but like, no, like I'm not a furry. And like, that's not a thing that I'm into, but just like some of like this stuff is kind of hot and everything. And he was like, I way over explained it and talked for like 3 minutes while he just sat there looking at me. And then at the conclusion of my way too long protest, he was like, he was okay. And then that was kind of it. And then he was like, you can do that. I don't care. Like you like explore what you want. I was like, I don't care. And that was like bizarre for me because I totally went hard into like trying to defend it and making it like not a thing. And he was like, this is totally fine. Like who gives a shit? And then I was like, oh, I thought you'd be like more angry about it or like not vibe with it. And then he was just like, yeah, live your truth. Like if you want to like look at it, go for it. And then I kind of was like, okay. And so then like within literally a week, dude, like literally everything on my phone was like furry coded. Like I had a furry Pinterest, I had a furry Instagram, I had a furry TikTok. Like I had re-downloaded TikTok and stuff after deleting it, and just like cultivated into like a curated furry algorithm. And then that actually, so it was kind of like an inverse thing where it was like, I think I kind of started off with like the porn, and then branched out into like, oh, like this doesn't have to just be adult coded. This is actually just like a really like cool, like creative community that happens to be like really sex positive on the side. And then, and then that led to just like exposure therapy for like fursuits and conventions and stuff. And then, he kept asking me at the time, he's like, do you want a fursuit? I'm like, is that a thing that you want to do? And I was like, no, I don't want a fursuit. It's weird. It's like not my vibe. And then I literally have the screenshot of the text saved to my phone where it was like 3 months later, I texted him. I was like, so I think I do want a fursuit. And he was like, okay, do you know how much they cost? And my husband's also like very chronically online, so he knows everything about everything. And he was like, do you know how much they cost? And I was like, no, how much they cost? And he's like, they're like minimum like $3,000, maximum like 15, sky's the limit. And I was like, holy shit, I'm not paying for that. So then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just make my own. And then I just went down the deep end of like making a fursuit, learned how to do all that from like scratch, because it was basically like either pay like $6,000 because I wanted like a really like complicated fursuit when I started designing my Sona and everything. And literally everywhere I got quotes from was like, yeah, I'm not doing that for less than like $5,000. And which like made sense. And then I was like, whatever, I'll just do it myself. Maybe it'll turn out terrible. Maybe it'll turn out cool. Started making it. And then once I finished making the fursuit, that was what like led into the whole social media thing. But that's a whole different story at that point too. So.
Right. Well, it just honestly is fascinating to me because like, my story is a little bit similar. I've told a little bit on here, like it's sort of with, TikTok streamers back in January of last year. And eventually it's like, I hated it. My ex was a furry. I was engaged to them. And it, ultimately, didn't work out. We're still very much friends, but it just, that stuff never stuck with me or anything else like that. It took the goddamn VR streamers on TikTok that kind of like wrote me in, and it was just that constant sense of denial. But I cannot express the sheer power of the husband permission pass, truly, because like it's a thing where it's like I do remember, and I think he probably remembers too, the day when like I had like it was like Dingaroo was streaming. It was this Blue Wolf character, and like it was up on my screen, and like husband goes over to the nice side of the office and just goes like hi, and he looks at it and it just has this look of like, ugh, what is that? And I just was like, I don't know. And I remember telling Dingo about that yet, and my husband wasn't too impressed. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, you didn't have anything to do with it. He just didn't vibe with it. It's okay. And then Last year we were in visiting his parents on a cabin trip, and I was driving down the road, and my phone was connected to it, and I just kept getting group notifications popped up. It was me and some of my friends that I met in chat, just like talking about stuff. And so it had like Dingaroo's like blue logo. It just kept popping up and over again. So my husband just like, so you gonna become a blue wolf? What's this chat? Are you gonna become a blue wolf now? And I'm just like, no, no. And then later that trip, I was kind of just like I sat down. I'm like, can I just tell you about this? I really want to tell you about this. And after he was kind of understood like the vibe, it was a lot easier. But the story I love telling is very recently for my birthday, he got a very unusual gift for me, which was a bunch of hard shell like high end traveling suitcases. And I'm just like, oh, this is cool. This is unexpected. And he's like, I just thought it could be something where if you want, when you go to Japan, maybe we can use them. Or if you wanted to go to a con, you could bring like a fursuit or something like that.
That's so
Yes. I
cute.
know. And for me, I was just like, yes. And then within a week, I had a commission like for a fursuit, like in the
Like you get
bag.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
It's
wonderful. It's
just
like so freeing to like have the
right.
people that are like closest to you like express any modicum of support where you're like, oh, thank God. Like this is literally the exact same thing when I was still very like before I had even made the fursuit. And I'm looking
Mhm.
at it right now in my office. My husband went to Home Goods and he saw it's a little bronze fox and he just bought it. It
Oh.
was like $8 or whatever. But it was just he was like I got home and when I told him about the fursuit, he was like, okay, like what character do you want to be? And I just said, I just really like foxes. I think foxes are neat. And for him to like 2 weeks later, before all the furry shit had really like taken off, he just came home with like a little bronze fox and he was like, I just thought this cute, made me think of you. It was like that was just like that meant a lot more to me than I think he knew. So
Mhm. It's crazy how small gestures are just have such huge impact. Like I will say it was a little frustrating though, because like as I was entering this, there are a lot of people who are just like, like I'm just funny in chat and I'm just with all these furry people in this group chat. That's all it is. It's nothing too crazy. And then everyone's just like, you're gonna be a streamer one day. I'm not gonna, and then like next thing I know, there's like a VR headset in my hand, and then you're gonna have a Sona. I'm not gonna what do you know? Someone's created this is for me now. Like it's just one thing after another, and it's just like I there is an episode of this podcast in which I defiantly say I'm never going to get a fursuit. And so now next time I see Punk, I think I owe him $50 because I will have my full partial at that time. So like it's just money in the bank for him at this point. I'm not making any other bets on this pod. I will tell you that right now. But it's interesting because you frequently cite Lion King as being so powerful and influential. I was like thinking if you were so Simba coded as a youth, I just thought you wouldn't want to be more of a jungle animal. It was more of the fox that just kind of like stuck in your maw, as it were.
no, so the actually I forgot to mention it too because the other movie that like 100% did it for me was Robin Hood. Um,
Well,
and that
Mhm.
I would think between the two of those, I would say that Robin Hood was more of like more formative for like literally
mm,
no reason other than I just thought Robin Hood was cool. And
right.
like I don't know what it was. It's just like it's hard to articulate what it specifically was, but I just vibed with Robin Hood like on a deep emotional level. Whereas like people my age like really liked the characters, but I like really liked the characters, and I was like, I don't know what it was about it or like how to describe it, but yeah, I just kind of vibed with foxes.
I will posit a brief theory though that I think that with Lion King, I know there's the two different types of anthropomorphic animals. There are those that are still animal-like but have like human characteristics, like the lions in Lion King, and then there's those that are a little bit more anthropomorphic bipedal, like what you see in Robin Hood. And I
Yeah.
think with Robin Hood, I think that characterization actually kind of speaks a little bit more because also every character in that movie is so intrinsically well designed. You know
Yes.
about the snake, you know about the king, their personality traits are just writ large. And it's also a kinky as fuck movie, but that's its own discussion for another day. Like it is truly, but like, and it's just the thing where like, yeah, he has swag in a sense that like not many other,
Yes, that's a good way to put it. He has swag.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Would you say he has swag, Punk? Does he have what swag?
Yeah, yeah. I think every box in every anime movie has some type of swag. It's
You
just
know, it's
a
funny
character
too is
trait.
uh my I had never seen Fox and the Hound my whole childhood until this Christmas we watched it. So I was 33 for the first time when I watched Fox and the Hound. I was also like deeply a furry at this point too. Like right,
Hmm.
I had done on the TikTok and the Instagram and all that stuff. Like I was like entrenched in furry when I first saw Fox and the Hound. I remember turning to my husband like probably because he was the one who was like, I can't believe you haven't seen this movie. He's like, you're literally a Fox Online and you haven't seen Fox Online.
Yeah.
And so we watched it, and I turned to him, I think 8 minutes into the movie, and I was like, if Lion King and Robin Hood hadn't done it, this shit would have done it in like 30 seconds for me when I was a kid. This movie is my jam. This is so good. Because Todd is the cutest character I have ever seen, and like just his expressions and everything about it, and his voice actor is just so cute. It's just, that movie like melts me, dude. It was so good. So
Like it and the thing is that like I have to kind of keep remembering, as you know, I think everyone here we're of the, you know, upper 30 bracket, you know, we're a little bit, you know, in our 30s roughly, except me, but still. It's the thing where I kind of have to keep forgetting, just like, man, these classic things that are so impactful, and I kind of just neglect, or I just don't necessarily think that, like, oh, for a lot of people Zootopia is that. You know, for a lot of people Zootopia 2 is that. Like, that is their first exposure, even more than the first one, and like it's just a whole new generation of furry passes on. There is the argument that Zootopia 2 is just like made for furries, but also I don't know any movie that can make almost $2 billion at the box office and being only for furries, unless we're just that powerful, and I don't know truly.
do you know something? I have a hot take on Zootopia.
Okay, please.
I think Zootopia is not very furry coded at all. And hear me out on this, because Zootopia is deeply concerned with ensuring that the rules of a human world make sense for animals. And in like a truly furry code, this is also not my opinion, by the way. I heard this opinion from someone else and it like changed me. And
you adopted it. It's internal.
I adopted it.
Right?
It's my opinion, yeah. But like a true like furry coded movie has basically makes no distinction between like what is animal and what is human, except for the fact that the main characters are animals. They just like exist in a human world. But like Zootopia is like totally concerned with like the animal rules, and like how the elephants do this, and how the snake can hold its breath in this because it's a snake, and how they can do this and all this stuff. And like the whole world's designed around animals. But like if it were truly furry coded, it would just be a human movie with furry characters. Does that make sense?
This is actually because when I was doing the prep for when we had Uncle Kage on the pod, he talked about
you had
what
Kage on the pod. That's fucking sick. That's cool.
Maybe.
I didn't know that. I'll go watch that episode. I'll have to go listen.
I am deeply proud of all the guests that we've had on this episode. I'm so happy that you're a part of that echelon. I will tell you that. But when I was doing the research, one interviewer, because I want to make sure I'm not asking the same questions a million times over. One interviewer asked him like, what makes a good like piece of furry fiction, and he talked about like the fact that they're animals and they have animal characteristics is key, because it was the kind of thing that's just like, it's a love story set in World War II, and it's a dog who's a soldier and his love, who's also a dog, passed away. It's like, if you take out the dog of it, what happened? Like, or they could just be humans. They could be robots. They could be anthropomorphic scarecrows, you know, whatever. But it's a thing where he remembered this one book that he read, and I can't remember the name off the top of it, but like some dog, you know, anthropomorphic dog moves into town, but then like he's down on his luck, you know, all the humans are rejecting him, but then like some criminals look at him and just like, you could help us out with a job, like robbing this like, you know, warehouse or something like that. And they got him specifically because he has these soft paw pads, because he has this, you know, nose that can sniff out things. It really emphasized that it was exclusively an anthropomorphic animal, and that was part of the drive of it, and that's what made it more specifically furry. And I think that's an opinion. I don't think that may not be universally adapted, but I personally like it too, because it's like, as much as we adopt all these different animal characteristics, it's like you have to have those characteristics. If you're just a human in generic animal, that's one thing. But if you are, you know, embodying one suit or a different suit or something like that, and you like kind of change between them, then that I think is a little bit more as to the more character aspects of it, you know?
Yes. And Kage's opinion is objectively superior to my own, so I will defer.
Well, I actually do kind of have to add, like, stop a little bit though, because the way that you're describing the story, and like the stories, you mentioned like you rehashed some of this from your you know, social media videos, which are wonderful and delightful and very easy to take in and fantastic. But the thing is that like you talk about this impulse to have a fursuit. It seemed like you had that impulse even before you came up with Rorschach the Fox as a Sona.
I gotta think about when I kind of. They kind of developed in tandem, I think, because I first decided that I wanted a fursuit, I think, before I even made it a persona. I had decided on the fox, and then my husband and I had like I remember I was in the garage and I was building my desk. I have like a piano built into my desk, and so when he was on a work trip again. He's always traveling for work and stuff. So he was on a work trip, and I was texting him. I was like, I think I want a fursuit, and he was like, okay. He said, what do you want to be? I said, I think I just like foxes. And he was like, why foxes? And I just said, I just think foxes are neat. And then from there, he was like, okay, well, you have to like design it and everything. I was like, okay. So I started designing it. And I initially did like the cardinal sin. I just like jumped to like chat GPT and stuff and AI and everything and was just like throwing stuff into AI. And I had a couple of friends who were artists and they're like, you should stop doing this shit. And I was like, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty valid. And so eventually I went to like downloading like a pre-made fursona template off of like Etsy and then like coded it in myself and then had some friends who were like good artists that I helped me like develop it into like what I wanted. And I wanted it to be like ink blot patterns and stuff because this went like down a whole different rabbit hole and stuff. But I initially wanted it to be an African painted dog just because I loved like the markings,
the styling.
It just looks so cool, just like the painted kind of like look and everything. But I thought their ears were too goofy. Like I just didn't like the big like rounded Mickey Mouse ears and stuff. And I was like, I don't like that. So then I was like, maybe I'll just like use just the markings and stuff. But then like I'll put it on a fox. And I was like, so I'll do that. And then as I was like looking for like inspiration for African painted dogs, one of the results was like a Rorschach like ink blot test. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't think about doing that. And then as I started designing that, I just started going with like ink blots and everything, but I didn't like ink blots was just the design at that point, and I had no idea of the name. And then this is actually an interesting story too. So in tandem with this, when I started making the fursuit, I started TikTok kind of around that time. And I've always been very comfortable being naked because I grew up a swimmer. So like swimming all throughout high school and then college and everything. Like I swam competitively like my entire formative years. Like I've always been like in a Speedo. Like I would legitimately be super comfortable like being naked on social media with like no sexual context whatsoever. Just like it doesn't bother me. So when I first got my fursuit kind of like stitched together, I was trying it on social media. I made a TikTok about it that I was like just trying my suit on. And then the TikTok blew up overnight, which was like super scary because I hadn't told my husband about it. And then I was like, oh shit, like this is a problem. Because it went from, I made the first video and I posted it and I went to bed. And when I woke up the next morning, I remember this, so there was 1,065 followers. And I was like, oh shit. And then I was like, that's kind of cool though. Like if I can just like take my shirt off and then like I can get people to like watch the videos and then I can talk about the things that I want to talk about, but like that's just kind of like the hook. And then I promise I'll bring this whole story around. There's like 8 different tangents going on right now, but I'll bring it back. So then I started doing that more frequently where I was making more and more videos and stuff on social media and I was taking my shirt off just for the sake of being like, all right, well, if you guys want to look at me without my shirt off, then I get to talk about the things I want to talk about. And that's like a good compromise for me. And up to this point, I hadn't told my husband about it. And I was like 3 or 4 videos in and the TikTok had like 3,000 followers. And I was like, okay, at some point, I'm going to need to tell my husband about this because this is a problem. But like the more I thought about how am I going to tell him about this, the more I got in my own head about it. And I was like, I don't know any way that I can tell him this without it being like a problem. And then this went on for like several weeks. And then I was at the point where I was like making content like when my husband wasn't home. It was very clandestine. It was very shitty. And he was tangentially getting furry shit on his algorithm because we were talking about it. Like he wasn't actively like disapproving of furry stuff, but he was like, I'm not really interested. But he was like, oh, I saw this and like I like this and I sent it to you or something. And I was like, oh, cool. Like that's nice. So he would get some furry stuff on his algorithm. And so I'm like, but he would also get like shirtless guys on his algorithm because that's just his normal algorithm as a gay man. And I'm like, I am in danger, dude. Like I am minutes away from showing up on his FYP at some point. Which I did while he was away on a work trip. I think he was either in New Jersey or no, yeah, he was in New Jersey. And he sent me a text. I remember that very well because my friends were over and he sent me a text and he just said, hey, we can talk about this later, by the way, but you just showed up in my FYP. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm getting divorced. Like this is terrible. This is so bad. Like this is the worst.
The furry that ruined my marriage. A story, right? Yeah.
My heart dropped, and I was like, I texted him, and I was like, I had really hoped that I was going to pay for a vacation before you found out about this, because that was like the way I had decided that I was going to tell you about this. But then I sent him a long text, and I was like, this just like
Oh.
it spiraled, and I am so sorry, and like I'm sorry this is how you found out. I wanted to tell you, I had meant to tell you like many times, but I just didn't know how to say it because it got really out of hand really quickly. And then he sent me a long text back, and he was like, I'm not mad about it at all. I'm just pissed that you didn't tell me. He was like, the social media shit is super cool. You should keep doing it. And also, you're doing it wrong. Like, lift your arms more, show your armpits, like pull your pants down, make sure that you're wearing the gray sweatpants, make sure you're doing this, and like land your stories, because your stories take too long to tell, and like no one gives a shit. And then like he became like my social media manager after that. We had like a long talk and everything about boundaries and just like being, honest. But so I told you that whole story to tell you this, that eventually at that point, and we kind of talked about it, that people who were like engaging with social media were kind of like seeing what they wanted to see in it. So I noticed that like half of the audience that I got was like people who like really liked my stories and like really liked what I was talking about, because I talked about pianos and stuff a lot, because I had bought a piano around that same time. So I was like talking about the piano, but I was talking about the piano with my shirt off. So half people in the comments were being like, oh, like Hawkeye with the shirt off, which is great. And then the other half were being like, I love your piano. Like, I love what you're talking about. This is great. And like,
Yeah.
to me, I'm kind of making things up in my head a little bit, but like to me, that was kind of like people seeing what they wanted to see. And then, so that is kind of like the point of like the inkblot test, of like the Rorschach inkblot test. And then, so I was like, oh, like Rorschach would be kind of a cool name. And then, so that's kind of how I wound up picking the name. Up to that point too, I had chosen, like, I had a bunch of different names bouncing around. One of them was Dexter. I thought Dexter was just a cool name, but it didn't mean anything. So it kind of felt kind of meaningless. But yeah, Rorschach was that's kind of the long story of how I got the name and how I got my persona. And then how everything with like the ink blots and the design and the fursuit and the name all kind of like developed at the same time, side by side by side.
That's really cool, genuinely,
Yeah.
profoundly. The thing I want to drill on, because you kind of just jumped it right away, but like, you get this permission from your husband to be like, it's okay, you can be furry, no judgment, etc. But what was the compelling reason of all the things that you were just like needed a fursuit? Was it just because like that's what other furries do, or just like or you saw like cool fursuiters and like this is what you are looking for? Like, what was that initial? Can you describe what that impulse was? Why you ran to fursuit as the first thing so quickly?
I have a tendency, like as a person, this is like a personality quirk, to go
Uh-huh.
way. This is probably ADHD talking, but I go way, way, way too hard on like any hobby or new thing that I like get in my life. Like, this has been a thing forever. Like, when I cannot engage in something and then not be like good at it or like deep into it. Like, I have like a pathological need to be like, at the very minimum, like very good at anything that I do. And that's been like a through point in my entire life. So like when I was in college, I got really into photography. I became like the photographer for our school's magazine. I was like a big photographer for a long time. I did photography as I wouldn't say a career, but like as a side job for a long time. I was a photographer for a couple of magazines in Seattle while I was still working there. And then around the same time, I got big into mountain biking. I at one point I literally had like 10 bikes in that tiny ass condo in Seattle. I worked at a bike shop. I got discounts on bikes. I was huge into mountain biking. And so like furry was no different, where I was like, it's like the hyperfixation kind of a thing, And
Uh-huh.
at least at this point, I recognize what it is and I can feel it coming. And I even told my husband, I was like, I want you to know that like I can feel like the little like dopamine center of my brain like squeezing out chemicals every time I look at anything furry, and I think this is going to be like a thing. It's like, this is going to be the next hyperfixation. He was like, okay, like I'm ready for it. Like, we'll just deal with it. And that just became, I was like, okay, I need like all the social media. I need a fursuit. Like, I want to make a fursuit. This is awesome. These are super cool. Like, the fursuits are fire. Like, the more that I looked at them, the more that I was like, I really want one of these. They just seem super cool.
Mhm.
And then just like the challenge of making one was awesome. So yeah,
Were
the
you always
more
a crafty person?
yeah, for sure. I mean,
Okay.
I've definitely always been like an artistic person. Like, my first job out of college, like my degree in college was in music composition, and I worked as a film
Mhm.
composer for a couple of years out of college until I realized that it wasn't what I wanted to do. So like I've always definitely been like an artsy, like definitely creative person. And I've always been
Right.
the type of person I've been like handy, I guess. So anything that I want to learn to do, I can usually just like watch YouTube tutorials and stuff and kind of figure it out.
Hmm.
And so the fursuit, obviously the first version of it is the one that I wear currently for the most part. Obviously the second version of the head, but like there's a lot of stuff that I want to do differently on it, and I'm currently working on the second version. But yeah, it just kind of sprung out of just like I need to like deeply engage in anything that interests me, and the best way to do that was to make the fursuit and then start like posting about it on social media.
Hmm. Yeah. Can I ask a bit more of a serious question, if that's okay?
Yes.
So you had talked in some of your videos that like you had this list of hyperfixations that you had over the years. It was just, it was mountain bikings, it was, Legos, it was, aquariums, it was, like you had all these other things that have happened, throughout your life. But you also had talked about at this time, like, especially like, some things have carried over through the pandemic or whatnot, but there was always that fear that, this will be a hyperfixation for X amount of time and then it will just be a project that kind of goes away or something like that.
Yes.
Do you have that same fear with furry, or does that feel
Yeah,
completely different?
100%.
You
So
do.
like
Okay.
I do and I don't at a certain in a certain way. So like there are my my hyperfixation like schedule has ebbed and flowed over the years, and I can definitely tell when something is like gonna stick, or if it's gonna be like a transient thing that I get out of pretty quickly. And I've noticed that as the years have passed, they tend to stick more. I don't know if that's just coming with like maturity, like as I age, where
Hmm.
I know how to like moderate these things a little bit better, like for my life, uh, versus just kind of like letting them go over time. Like the Legos thing was never. I mean, like Legos is just kind of a passing thing, but like I'm
Right.
still interested in Legos. Like we'll still go to the store and like we'll grab a set and stuff if we're bored. Um, there's things that I think the less meaning something has, the less likely I am to like really deeply engage with it. So like I'm looking at my office right now, just like, looking around at like the random little, fixations and stuff that are kicking around here. Like mechanical keyboards is like, there's no meaning into that. Right. And so it's like a passing thing. It's like, it's kind of cool.
Right.
But like, I'm not deeply involved in that. If I see something cool online, I might buy it and like engage with it for a couple of, for a couple of minutes and stuff, or build like a new one. But it's not something that I like think about day to day. But how long do I have to go on this story? Because I can I can totally run this one down the rabbit hole where it goes to like FWA and everything. But
I mean, I was going to ask about FWA, but please
Mm.
continue. Like,
all right,
we're
I'll
here
just like
for it, baby.
I'll just like
Exactly.
dovetail this into it basically. But I uh, realized pretty quickly that furry was going to be a thing that I like really cared about. I think because I went to when I had first before I even had the fursuit, I had actually just started making the foam base. I hadn't even met
Hmm.
other furries. I hadn't even seen a fursuit in real life, except for just like what I had, a crappy foam base that I was like 20% of the way through. And
Yeah.
I found like a local meet um, in Vegas where I live, and I went to it also when my husband was out on a work trip. And just like had so much freaking fun, man. Like I just felt like I was at home, and like I've always had friends and stuff. I've never been like really like a like an outcast or anything like in my life, but it
Hmm.
just felt different, right? Like it was just interacting with these people who just like had no judgment whatsoever. I guess I would say that like, I mean, growing up, you know, I grew up gay in Orange County, California, which is like one of the most conservative uh, counties, or one of the most conservative cities, like in the country, basically. And
Hmm.
it was definitely my dad was like accepting when I came out and everything, but it was definitely under the pretense of being like, you're gay, but you're not a fruitcake, like, and that was always kind of like a subtext growing up that
You were
like you can
straight
be,
passing, maybe.
yeah. And
Mm.
I was
Yeah.
always very straight passing too. And I've never had the voice or anything. I've never done like any stereotypically gay things. I never painted my nails or anything. And so like I was always very straight passing, which I think made it easier for like my parents and my family to like digest it when I came out. Um,
Mhm.
but I think going to the meetup in Vegas was the first time that I felt like I wasn't judged for anything at all. And that was very like profound for me. Um, and that just kind of like fed into like the entire hyperfixation where I was like, this is amazing. Like I need to engage with this even more. Like I need to finish the fursuit so I can go to more meets and so I can go to cons and stuff. And then the first con that I went to was like a couple of weeks after I finished the fursuit, or I guess a couple of months, because I finished the fursuit in October and I went to FC and went to Further Confusion in San Jose in January of this year. And I went with my buddy Oren, who was another guy that I met, or a local furry that I met. We went and saw Zootopia together. It was the first time I met him. And then we kind of like hit it off, started hanging out. We hung out at one of the local meets and I was like, hey, like I've been kind of tossing up the idea of going to FC. Do you want to try to figure it out? And I kind of like, I said that fully expecting this to just be like a conversation. And we would both blow it off and be like, no. And he was like, oh yeah, I'll go. And I was like, oh shit. Like he like called my bluff on it.
Damn it.
And I was like, I was like, okay. I didn't think you were actually going to say yes. So I got to see if I could actually make that work or not. And then it wound up working. And I had my entire full suit done for FC. And FC was awesome. But like it was really fun. And it was, I wouldn't call it life-changing. It was just really fun in a way that I would want to go to more furry conventions after that. I was like, that was a blast. That was so much fun. I just felt like I was myself. I got to, at one point I was walking through the night market. I loved, like, this was relatively early on in like the social media, journey. Yeah. But still like far along enough that like people were recognizing me at FC and like wanted to take pictures of me and stuff at FC. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. I love the attention. I'm a total attention whore. So I was like, this is fantastic. I love this. And then it like kept going after that. And at one point I was at FC and I was at the night market. And I was standing in I didn't have any like spicy like gear to put on for the night market because I didn't even know what it was at that point. So all I did was just go and just like banana peel my full suit. And then I was like walking around in the night market with a fursuit head on, half naked. And on my left, I was walking through, there was a glowing table of dildos on my left. And on the right, there was a bunch of like the Dacky pillows, with like furry porn art all over it. And I was like, this is
the two genders.
Literally, yeah. And I was like, this is the coolest situation I've ever been in my life. I was like, I didn't do anything fun in my 20s. This is fucking awesome. I want to do more of this. Like, this is just super cool. And then I got home and I was, we actually left the con early on Sunday because we were both kind of just like played out. We're like, this was super fun, but like, I'm exhausted. It's time to go home. Like, this is great. And so we drove back from San Jose. We drove the 8 hours and like, we just like, Oren and I became like super close, like fast friends immediately, just because like we had 16 hours in the car this weekend together. Right. Like just talking the entire time, just about furry shit. And like, just like finally, I think both of us being with someone else where we were like, I can just talk about this like really weird subculture that like nobody else wants to talk about with me, but you want to talk about it with me for 8 hours in the car. And like, we're totally fine to do that. It was just awesome. And like that made me want to engage with it even further. And then in April, I went to LVFC and LVFC was a blast because that was my home con. And like, we got a little bit more into it at LVFC because we kind of knew what we were doing a little bit more, like knew how to like engage on the con floor and like how to hang out with people and like what to like say to strike up. Like we didn't know what to say at all at FC. We were just like kind of just standing there awkwardly, like I don't know who to talk to and all this stuff. But like met a ton of people that I had talked to like on social media at LVFC and just had so much fun. And then LVFC I think was the start of like the corporate crash out because I got back from LVFC and was just like, it wasn't really like post-con depression per se coming back from LVFC, but it was definitely like the experience of being like, God damn, man, I just had like almost 72 hours of just straight up hanging out and having a good time and just being so free and like, no preconceived notions about who I need to be or what people expect of me. And now I have to come back and just like be a corporate cog again. And that was some tonal whiplash.
Hard whiplash.
Yeah. But like, it took me like 3 days and I kind of got over it. And like, I fell back into a rhythm. And then I knew I also had FWA in the back of my mind because it was like beginning of April to beginning of May. And I had those two cons kind of back to back. Those are the two that I really planned out. And then FWA, I like worked my ass off at work for the like week and a half before FWA so that I could just shut off Teams and shut off Outlook and just not look at anything for the entire time that I was gone, because I usually do have to do that with my job where like I still have to respond to emails and stuff. And I was like, my boss and all my coworkers know I'm a furry and stuff, and they know about the social media. And so I was just like, hey guys, just a heads up, like I'm going to like the second biggest con in the United States. I'm not answering emails. This is just me time. And they're like, sounds good. Like, you do you. And so I went to FWA, and FWA like changed my life, man. Like I have never had such like a profound like crash after the con. You know what I mean? Like which is it exists in my mind differently than FC and LVFC. Like FC was fun, LVFC was a lot of fun, and then FWA was just like a different beast entirely, where it was just so overwhelming for so many days, and I was like in a completely new place and just like experiencing just like pure love and acceptance and just everything about it. And like, dude, I cried for days after FWA, like out of nowhere. Like I was like, oh, like because I didn't get any like really significant post-con depression after FC or LVFC, and so I was like, I'm like immune to this, I'm fine. Like that's not gonna hit me. And then on the last day of FWA, after just doing so much stuff, it was like such a whirlwind. I was up till like 4:30 a.m. every single night at minimum, and just having so much fun. And on the last day of FWA, I was standing around the con floor. I'm going to try my best not to get choked up. I swear to God, I've cried telling this story like every single fucking time for like the last like 3 times I've told the story. But I'm standing on the floor at FWA on the last day, and just like looking at like the scene around me and just like seeing everybody. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to go home. Like, I'm not ready to leave this place. Like, this is just insane. Like, this is such a crazy experience. And Oren and his partner were there. And I was just like standing there, just like not moving. And Oren walked up to me and he was like, you okay? And I was just sobbing in my fursuit head. I'm like, I am so not ready to go. I'm not ready to go home. And then I was like, I had to leave at 5 p.m. like on the dot. So I was like, I had to like get my shit together. And then I left the con floor for the final time. I hugged literally everybody like 6 times. Left FWA, got all my stuff packed in the hotel room. I was rooming with Quinn. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a deer fursuiter from Norway. He's actually Canadian, but he lives in Norway now. He's just the sweetest dude ever. And he's just been making fun of me the entire weekend long that I'm like an emotional wreck. And so like I hugged him leaving the hotel, and like I'm crying while I'm hugging him, and he's just like, you're such a pussy, dude. Just please, for God's sakes, go. And I'm like, okay, thank you. And and I got in the car, and then oh my God, dude. Or I got in the Uber to take me to the airport, and the Uber driver was the sweetest lady ever. And she was like, oh my God, I've been picking all you guys up all weekend long. This is so cool. She's like totally all about like the furry culture and everything. And she's like, never seen anything like this. This is crazy. And she was like, what's the point? And she asked me that while we were driving there. And I was like, I guess it's just like the friends and like the people that you meet, and just, like the costumes almost seem like secondary a little bit. Like it's almost like the icebreaker, or it's like the glue that holds the entire like culture together, but it's not even really the point. And as I was telling the story, I just like started crying in the back of the Uber too. And then she like looked at me and she was like, it's okay. And I'm like, thank you. Like, and then I got to the airport, and I like pulled myself together at the airport, and I was like, I'm fine. I'm good. Like, I've got this together. And then Oren, who was still at the con for like another 24 hours, will never forgive him for this, texted me at the airport. And his text was like, I can literally remember it. I don't have to look it up. His text was, having you as a friend and getting to explore this world with you has been the best time of my life. Thank you. And I just started sobbing in the airport all over again, dude. And I was like, so that whole long story to say, this is 100% one of those like hyperfixation things that is not going away anytime soon, because I have found like the people that I vibe with, and I found like the best friends and that I've had in a long time. And just being able to experience a place where there is fundamentally no judgment of any kind, and people just let you exist the way that you absolutely are, with no pretenses and no judgment and no straight acting if you don't want to, and no anything, because there is nothing to judge these people for. Like,
Mhm.
how would you judge anybody walking around? How would you judge a 7-foot tall neon green hyena with a, and the wearer is trans and came from, nothing, or came from like this, all these crazy backgrounds and stuff. And just like, there's people come from such different walks of life and such different stories and everything. And there's just all different kinds of backgrounds and sexualities and genders and orientations and races and colors, all this stuff. It's just like, how do you couldn't even begin to judge anybody in this fandom in the first place. And so just like as a pretext, there is no judgment of any kind whatsoever. And that's so freeing for a lot of people who grew up maybe in places like I did, where you didn't always get a chance to be yourself.
Yeah. But that's kind of the key though, right? Because like you talk about like, the fursuit feels like an accessory or, maybe not even necessary as part of it. But like I always think about in its own weird way, and this is I brought it up on the podcast before, where basically I think about what RuPaul has said about drag, which is that she loves it when people step into a drag persona because it's not finding out other parts of themselves, it's revealing who they really are. And it's the kind of thing where my journey in furry has been like, I got really freaked out very early on because all the friendships that I had were just so genuine and so profound and so deep and so fast. And I think that was what was alarming to me because I'm used to just like casual meets and movie hangouts and like all these other, steps that you have to do almost superfluously to like, kind of get to the meat and potatoes of who these people are. But then you kind of get to a point where it's like you realize that when you're at work, and as much as I want to say that I'm myself at work, I'm not. It's a work mask. I think that when you're out and about with friends, that could even be a mask in its own way. And I think it's like think about the times in your life when you're truly, truly your actual self. Because I can almost guarantee for all of us, probably on this call and maybe with our listeners too, when you're around your parents. I think everyone has some sort of mask that they put on in some way or another. Like it's you, it's still you, but it's a tailored version. It's a costume that you put on specifically to deal with this specific audience, or sometimes down to the specific person. And
Yeah.
the weird thing about furry is you're putting on all of this, like carpet. You're putting on all this fabric. You're putting on this online sona and this avatar and all these other things like that. And this is a character that you yourself have made up, and you are the most free in that sense too. So it's in a way that like it's like you talk about like
Yeah, I
there's no
like that.
judgment.
It's like really
Yeah,
poetic.
it's because it just is, and like that's why I'm alarmed because it's not the thing is that like unlike being a drag queen when you're out there like if this is the real me and I'm performing it's one thing, but you're performing with a bunch of other people that are just being themselves. When you're furry, you're with other furries, everyone doing the exact same thing. So it's like a magnifying glass for everything. Everyone's like personality flaws, unfortunately, are very much in large scale, but also their heart and their kindness and their creativity and their sense of creation just is so much more in large and in front of you and accessible. And it can be scary. But as you
Yeah.
also described, it could be euphoric as well.
It is amazing at like just like the con environment, how fast you make friends and attach to people. Like
Hmm.
there's, Quinn, I had talked to in the months leading up to FWA. And I had messaged him. He loves to tell this story. He loves to be the one to make sure that everyone knows that I messaged him first on TikTok and told him that I loved his fursuit and stuff. And so we got to talking and stuff, and we were pals really quickly off the bat. And then he just a while ago he was like, oh, like I have some news that may interest you. I'm going to FWA this year. And I was like, oh, that's dope, because we up to that point I had been tossing up like Anthrocon versus FWA, and it wound up kind of just so happening that all of my friends were planning on doing FWA and not Anthrocon this year. And so I was like, okay, so I think I'm gonna do FWA. And so I was like, that's awesome, like we'll do it. And so then we got to talking, and he was like, do you need a roommate? I've got the hotel already booked. And I was like, dope. So we wound up rooming together, and like this is a dude that I have maybe spent a grand total of like 12 hours talking to over the course of months, right? Like I don't really know him terribly well. We're like best friends now. Like we got so close during FWA, and like just talking about, literally anything and everything, talking about his problems, my problems, like his life, my life, just literally everything. And just like how fast you get close to people and how fast was like friendships form. I met this guy at FWA named Howie, who I talked to for 5 minutes at a room party. And then he bumped into me at 3:45 in the morning on Friday or Saturday. I forget what it was. He was looking for a ramen party, and he had instructions on a group chat to find the secret ramen party. And I was like, okay, I'm in. And then we wound up, he was like, you got to help me find it, and I'll take his ramen party. I was like, okay, let's do it. And then we wound up walking like clear across to the wrong side of the hotel, which at FWA is like a legitimately like half a mile walk.
Right.
In a fursuit. We went to the wrong hotel. And then we got all the way to like the top floor of the wrong hotel before I was like, Howie, are you sure it's the Hyatt and not the Hilton? And he looks at his phone and he was like, oh God damn it. He was like, I'm so sorry, man. And I was like, no worries. Like, we're in this together. And then we like went all the way across, like we left the Hyatt and went all the way over to the Hilton instead. And like we got our ramen, and now like Howie's one of my best buddies too. So it's just like, it's crazy to me, like how quickly you just like mesh with people in like a con environment. And I think it has a lot to do with what you were talking about, where you're just kind of like, you're not masking yourself at all. You're not putting on any sort of facade. You're just like exactly who you are. Yeah. Even though you're wearing 50 pounds of carpet and foam.
Exactly that. And also you just walked 20,000 steps in a single day, which was, to let listeners know, I ran into you at FWA very briefly on the last day there. This is also one of the things where I wasn't planning on going at all, but then I just kept saying, oh, they're going too. And then eventually I'm like, fine, fuck it. I'm in, whatever. I'll just fucking do it. I'll make it work. And then Punk ended up joining too. And that's like, it's weird. We've been doing this podcast and Mist Furry Theater and all these fucking things together for like literal like months, and then we finally meet for the first time at FWA.
That's awesome.
And the thing that was so crazy was that it's just like, we have a pretty good friendship online, but I don't know about you, Punk. I don't want to tell stories out of school, but like it just slotted right in. There was just no.
It definitely did.
Yeah, it was just like there was no hesitance. There's no anything else. It's like, oh, that's right, you're one of my best buddies, and then it just bet. Like we just went with it, like it was just wild to see that just translate as quickly as it did, and I'm always going to be appreciative of that. While we're in this emotional space, though, I do want to ask one question of you, which is, do you remember how you opened your very first video, Roche?
I remember how I opened my very, very first video. Yeah, I do.
How did you open your very first video?
I said, I know this like verbatim. I said, my family will probably not find this eventually, but the worst thing that could possibly happen is if my family finds out that I'm a furry.
And that you'd never be able to live this down.
And I would never be able to live that down, yeah.
As we record this in the summer of 2026, I know this might be still evolving, and certainly if you're listening to it, there might be updates on his social since then. If you're listening to this 5 months from now or a year or whatever, but how is that going?
There are now 2 people in my family that know, and there's actually 2 people. What's funny too is when I said that in that video, there's really only 2 people that I thought about, maybe 2.5, like 3 people. I would say my mom and my dad, and then my cousin. So I'm part of a very large family, but there's only 2 aunts in that family that had only 1 child. So there's oh my gosh, I gotta count this in my head. There's 5 aunts and 2 uncles on each side, and each of them had at least 3 children.
Carry the one.
Except for 2, which were my mom and my aunt on my mom's side, who each had 1 child, and were the only only children in the family. So it's like a family of like, there's like 32 or 33 or 34 cousins. I forget the actual count, except for the 2 of us who are only children. And we were born 5 days apart. Our moms were pregnant at the same time. And she was born 5 days before me. And so we've always been functionally siblings, even in like every possible way except blood. She was the one that I was thinking about when I thought my family won't find this eventually. And a couple of weeks ago, forget how this even came up, but I said something like somewhat telling on a text where, and I didn't even mean to, like, I wasn't even trying to imply it. It was just like, she asked me what I was up to, because we hadn't talked in a while. She's very different like space in life than I am now, right? She's married and has one kid, and she's pregnant with her second kid. And I am a gay thirst trapping furry on TikTok instead. So very different life paths. And but she doesn't know about any of that. And so she was just like, what have you been up to? And I think I just texted her back like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you or something. Like as half as a joke. And like she can smell that like a mile away. She was like, what the fuck does that mean? Yeah. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Not a big deal. It's like, I was just screwing with you. And she was like, no, you weren't. What did you mean by that? And I was like, oh, God damn it, dude. Like, I like shouldn't have said that. And I was kind of poking the bear a little bit. I was like, yeah, when like you want to tell people, but like you can't. And I was like, so it was kind of like one of those
you almost
situations.
want them to call your bluff, but like not really.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. That psychological game you play with yourself. Yeah,
100%, dude. And so I was like, I wanted to tell her so bad, but I was like, it's just not like, just no. And so, but she dragged it out of me. She was like, what the fuck is up with you? And I was like, okay. I was like, I will tell you what's going on, but you are sworn to secrecy. And this is not one of those things that like, after a year, like when the statute of limitations is passed, you can start like gabbing to people and like, oh, like I'll tell my mom like this crazy thing that, Scott told me or that Roche told me. And I was like, this is to the grave. And she was like, okay, sounds good. And I just slow played, but like walked her, I texted her the entire story, like top to bottom, where I was like, Yoshi finding the stuff on my phone. Yoshi's my husband, by the way. That's just his nickname. So Yoshi finding the stuff on my phone, starting the social media thing, the social media blowing up, Yoshi not finding out, Yoshi finding out with like the FIP thing while he was on a work trip, me getting like unwittingly into like in over my head on social media, and then eventually turning into like Twitch streaming and going to cons and doing all this stuff and like finding people. And then she I texted her everything, and I just went I remember the last text I said was like, I'll take your questions now, and my phone just immediately starts ringing. I was like, oh geez. And I answered the phone, and the first thing she just goes, you're fucking Hannah Montana, dude. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of accurate. And then she was like, this is insane. She was like, this is super cool. She was like, I don't know anything about anything, so I don't know. And she asked like all the the usual questions and stuff. She's like, so is it like a sex thing? And I was like, it's not a sex thing, but it's also not a sex thing. Like it's not really a sex thing for me, but it doesn't mean it can't be for other people, and that's still totally okay. And she was like, okay, like I vibe with that. And I was like, the analogy that I always use for furries, like for furries getting dragged online and stuff, which is always unfortunate, is like if you took literally any random person off the street and like grabbed their phone and told them that I'm gonna look through your like search history, like on Google Chrome or something, they would snatch their phone back and be like, absolutely not. So it's like everybody has things that they're like into, but like furries just kind of get like dragged into the limelight, which kind of sucks. And have their like dirty laundry aired out and everything, because it is such a like sex positive community. But I was explaining to her, I was like, it doesn't need to be that, but it's not that. But the fact that it's not that for me doesn't mean that I think that all those people are weird. I think they're normal, and I think they're just like being normal with other people and just like exploring their interests. And she was like, okay, that's valid. Like that's cool. And so I was like, yeah, don't tell anybody and everything. And basically since then, I mean, she's busy with her kids and stuff, so we kind of haven't talked about it since then, but it was a very like positive experience with her. It was like not a big deal. She was just like laughing about it. She's like, that's crazy, you do you, live your best life. And then the other person that I told much more publicly on social media and everything was my mom, and that is still kind of ongoing, and that's not as positive of an experience, unfortunately. I have this sorry, go ahead.
You also had difficulty coming out too, from what I understand, to them, or at least it took a little bit more time for acceptance on that front.
Yeah, it was. My parents were very reversed from what I expected. My dad was a career firefighter, so he's always been gone on shift work, and so I was very much like a mama's boy growing up. So I've been very close to my mom. So my tendency growing up, and even still now, right, is to like open up to my mom first, and my dad second, because my dad is a hard ass firefighter. Like.
He's a man's man.
Lifelong Republican, man's man, like super, super conservative, And when I came out to my mom I would say she didn't take it well. My mom's very like much like an avoidant processor. So she likes to be alone with her thoughts and doesn't like to talk to anybody about it. And I am a very like talk it out, like
Hmm.
engaging processor. So I need to like talk about things if there's like uncomfortability. Like if my husband and I are ever in a fight about anything, like I need to resolve it like that minute. Like we're not
Hmm.
leaving until like we resolve it and then we can go because I hate the way it just festers. Um,
Hmm.
so like my mom and I are just like diametrically opposed in the way that we process information. And that is like really hard for me at times, right? Because like I want to give her space and want to like let her process these things, but she processes them in a fundamentally different way that I do. So there winds up being some friction from that. So
Hmm.
I think right now she's still processing for sure. I did text her recently and I was like, hey, you know, since we kind of like talked about all this stuff a little bit when I eventually told her, and that whole, you know, saga is on social media if you want to go watch it at some point. But it went well initially, and then it kind
Hmm.
of fell off a cliff afterwards as she started to process, I think. Because like the initial conversation was like a couple, you know, 2 hours of texting back and forth, and she was like, "Oh, that's crazy! Like you made the whole suit." And I was like, you know, she also has no idea about the social media or anything, so I literally just showed her the suit and like explained to her like kind of what it meant as far as like local meets. So all she knows about is local meets and the suit. No cons, no social media, no, you know, thirst trapping, no nothing. Once she started to process everything, she kind of shut down, which I like saw it coming a little bit, and it was still kind of disappointing. But I sent her a text after about a week and a half of like pretty much no contact, and I was like, "Hey, haven't heard from you in a while. I tried to call you a couple times, you didn't answer, which is not like you. Can we talk?" And got kind of a long, wordy text back that was like, "Yeah, we can talk soon. I've just been really busy and I've been doing all this stuff. And like, there's, you know, no problem. Like, I'm not uncomfortable with any of this. It's totally fine. Like, it sounds good. Like, I'm glad that you're, you know, you're doing this and stuff. We'll talk," which is very unlike her.
The
If,
signs were there, right? Yeah.
yeah. So like, if it actually wasn't an issue, the response would have been like, "Oh yeah, no worries. Like, you're fine. Like, call me." But the fact that it was like a long-winded, you know, wordy text was kind of like, oh, like she's still processing. So that is uh, that is in process, I would say. And interestingly, when I came out to my dad as gay, my dad's literal first words were, "Oh, I don't have a problem with that." And I was like, "What
Huh.
the fuck, man?" Like I spent literally like 20 years being afraid of you for this shit, and then that's what you say back. I was like, "You got to be kidding me." So
Yeah.
it makes me wonder actually if, you know, I were to like, if I needed to talk to somebody, I think I might actually like dad might be next, to be honest. So
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
stay tuned for that at some point. We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see how that
Unless
plays
he's
out.
listening to a brand new episode of I'm Definitely Not a Poppy Fur, in which case, yes, your son is a furry. Don't know how to break that to you.
Yeah.
But
He might not be your target audience.
exactly, it's the truth. Not yet. Not yet. We're coming for everyone. Uh, well, I mean, number one, I mean, I understand that very fully. I will always remember being in a car ride with my dad when I was like 12 or 13, and he's just like, I don't, it's like I don't have a problem with gays. I just wish they keep it in their pants or something like that, which I was not gay, or I don't even think questioning it at the time, but that comment stuck with me. And then when I started having things
Yeah.
later, it's just like, oh fuck, should I? And then they were incredibly accepting, and my parents were, but also I have been. The one thing I will say about being in this fandom too is that you're also dealing with, and I'm not don't want to generalize, but you're dealing with a lot of emotionally damaged people, and a lot of people who've come from radical trauma. And you could maybe apply that to certain groups in certain capacities, but with furries especially, it is, I feel, a very over indexed number. And it's the thing where like I and have learned for a long while that I've been extremely lucky that me and my husband both have parents that we still talk to and like is actually quite a rarity in this thing. So it's difficult to navigate that space, and I truly do wonder. It's such a weird thing. It's not a big deal, but coming out as furry it shouldn't be another coming out. It sometimes feels like a coming out. And it's just I
Mhm.
am all it's so quixotic to me. Like Punk, he told a story earlier on of like in high school, like he was posting some furry stuff on his Facebook and his friends staged an intervention to say you got to cut this shit out, which is
That's crazy.
insane.
Yeah.
Insane. But per Punk, don't let me put words in your mouth, but you're not friends with those people anymore, right?
Oh yeah. No, I haven't kept up with them at all.
Yeah. Hmm. For good reason. But
Hmm.
it's also so difficult because like for something that gives you so much joy, it's just like you want other people to experience that, joy, or at least witness to it. And it's like it's hard to try and, you know, wrap that around. But There is the thing I want to briefly talk about. You did talk about a little bit about PCD because especially after you've been in an experience where you had such a euphoric high to then kind of like rationalize with quote unquote the real world. Uh it's difficult too because you're also in a place where when you're in a con you are away from the worries of parents, you're away from the worries of work and other things like that. Like it is this true isolated thing. So I have a theory about it, or at least my own answer for it, and I want to get Pun's answers too, but I will ask you. What is the cure for post-con depression?
Were you asking me or did you say pump first?
I'm asking you first.
Oh, sorry.
You're the guest. Exactly. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. The cure is more conventions, honestly.
I mean, I know that's the obvious answer.
Yeah, right.
Still, yeah.
I don't know, man. The cure for me, that's a very like philosophical question, I feel like, because it's not just about the con, right? It's about like trying to rationalize the experience that you just had and then bring it back into like normal day life. I got a really interesting comment on Instagram where someone said that like living your life for the next con is unhealthy and like that's a really bad way to live. And I was like,
I agree. I actually agree personally.
My response was that it's not that I'm waiting to live. It's more of just that like I've just had one of the most like emotionally concentrated experiences of my life and I'm still trying to process it. And I think processing it is healthy. So I don't know, man. I think it's going to be different for everybody. But for me, honestly, it was just like planning the next con. I already have like plans. I already know what I'm doing next. I'm going to do ASC in September and then hopefully MFF in December. But
nice.
I'm also trying to, at the same time, stay engaged with everybody that I met at FWA. And like trying to like maintain those friendships as much as possible and not just let them be transient and not just let, that experience be just like a thing that like shot up for 5 days and then is immediately gone and out of my life. Like I want to take all the people, all the friendships and stuff that I made at the time that I was there and like nurture that and like talk to those people and like actually, get to know those people. At least that's kind of how I've been processing it. And then I go back and I watch my own videos and I cry some more too. And that helps too. So.
I understand that completely. Punk, well, first off, let me just ask you because obviously we got to see each other. Number one, how was your FWA? And number two, what is your cure for post-con depression?
Again, FWA was great. It was my first comeback after almost 10 years, I think. And I got peer pressured by Sawd and a bunch of other people.
I did no such thing. I just said there was a room available. Anyway.
And that was the magic word.
For your free room, and it's like, huh? Yeah, exactly. Right.
Well, that's my biggest issue is getting a room for a con is just like a battle royale. It's so difficult. And I've seen my friends do that, like where they're just refreshing the page every 2 seconds. Just fiending.
That wasn't your life. Right.
That was, yeah. Luckily, I had others get the rooms, and I'm just like, okay, I'll find a way to get there. Yeah. But it was great. Again, it was fantastic. And for my, I guess, cure, I don't know.
There's no cure.
There's no cure. Just keeping up with everyone, as you would say, Rorschach, just because I was there to meet the people I've been talking to online for the last like few months. Again, I never thought I would go to another con. I did my whole tour back in the early 2000s, and I thought, I mean, I still struggle these days being like, am I a furry still? Like, anytime someone asks me that, I give the bullshit answer like, what's that? No, I'm just, but I kind of feel like it's there, but it's not there. I don't like classifying myself as a furry. It's weird. But just I'm there for the friendships. Huh?
Yeah. And also, I mean, you've been doing this for, almost 2 decades. Like you've been through the tour of duty, you've seen people leave the fandom and come back 1,000 times over. So like the fact that you're even still in it, even tangentially, or hosting an award nominated podcast within the fandom, like, it's still, it's its own journey, but also it's like, it's your journey. will just say I'm happy that you're here. Truly, profoundly,
Thank you.
deeply. But my cure for it, and the thing I keep telling other people is that as much as you want to be waiting for the next con, it is drag furry into your everyday. It's the kind of thing where
Yes,
I think Rorschach, you said it so nicely when you talked about it. Basically, a fur con is like a concentrated dose of furry. It is the it is the super serum
the
of furry. You
DMT
know. Yeah,
of
exactly. The DMT of furry. But like it is the thing where I think the more things you're able to do every day, and whether that be posting, whether it be running a Discord server, whether it just be the furry art or the the blockade of commissions that someone might have in there, I definitely don't have 3 or 4 that I'm waiting on right now. Definitely not.
Yep, I feel
Like
that.
exactly, but like it's like the more you incorporate that there, Salem Underwood, someone who I met at MFF, they at the dealer's den, I purchased them a Dingaroo badge because it was the very least I could do because they were turning into Buddy. And then they got me this rabbit necklace that I have worn every single day since. And it's the kind of thing where like it's the kind of thing where like like the other day I went to Starbucks and like someone just commented like I really like your necklace. Like, oh good. I don't want to say like, well, it's because I'm a furry, but it's the kind of thing where like it's just that kind of public display or reminder that it's out there and present. And I don't know, it's just the more I'm able to do that and be open with it and be about it. I don't know. It's just a great feeling. But
It is weird how much it's become like an important part of my life because it's hard in my mind. I still kind of struggle with this a little bit. It's very difficult to reconcile the outward appearance of what furry is, where it's just
mhm,
like dressing up in animal costumes and like hanging out
mhm.
with these weird people who like to do the same thing and like making art and just like fucking around online and not really doing anything fundamentally important, and then reconciling that with like how truly deeply important this actually really is to me, right? Like the friendships and
Right.
stuff that I've made, and like
Mhm.
it's very, I find it, that's one of the hardest things that I've had to convey, and that's one of the things that I like to talk about a lot in my content stuff too, where it's just like trying to get people on the outside of furry to understand why this is so important to people and why it's a lot more important than it might look at the outset, if that makes sense.
No, I completely understand. And it's like,
Mhm.
again, I think participation in it, the fact that like it is still such a fundamental thing, and also quite frankly, an ungoverned thing, which is I think still one of the biggest appeals of it, is like there's so much power in it. It is truly unlike like an anime fandom or like, being a fan of a TV show or something like that. Like this is a fandom where you truly make what you want out of it. It is a sandbox. There's people here and there beforehand, but there are these cons, but there is no central governance. There is no, specific, constitution for it. It's a thing where if you want to see something in it, you make it. And that's what people have been doing for decades. And it's like that's the part that is still so like appealing to it. So quite frankly, like if Punk is sitting here and he's like, I was a furry, but like I'm not sure if I'm comfortable calling it. I don't care what you call yourself, buddy. Like the fandom brought me to you, and that is still one of my favorite things that has possibly happened, like straight up. So like it is the thing where it's like furry or not, it's still like I realized early on, and Rorschach, I'm not sure if you'll feel the same way, but within like the first 3 months of like being in it, I was just like, I'm just gonna be spending the rest of my life paying off what this fandom has given to me. Like the people that
Yeah,
is shoved in
I
my
would agree.
face, like yeah, 100%. Well, we've taken up so much of your time, and typically we like to do a quick rapid fire round before we end the main episode here. But Punk, let me just defer to you. Are there any outstanding queries, questions, or concerns that you need that Rorschach needs to address right now in this court of law?
Uh, Not that I could think of. I have one, but we could save that for the after hours.
Okay, okay, cool. In that case, listen, I think we got to dive into it. Rorschach, are you ready for the closing rapid fire round?
Yep, hit me.
All right, here we go. Let's do it. All right. It's also, for the record, the longest one I've ever done. So let's get into it. Number one, pause or Moz.
Moz.
Oh, interesting. Number two, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, or The Lion King 1.5.
1.5.
We're
No
saying,
question.
putting
I had that on.
putting
I
a
had it on
pin in
VHS.
that. Putting
Yep.
a pin in that. What's the best Christopher Nolan movie?
Interstellar.
Yif, Mary Kill, Scott Hunter, Shane Hollander, Ilya Rozanov.
Oh fuck. I am least a fan of Scott Hunter, unfortunately. So kill Scott Hunter. Yif
Controversial.
Yif for sure. Rosanov, and then Mary Hollander.
Yeah, we can do that. He's got money. It's great.
That's a
What
great
is
question. That'll get my husband to watch this or to listen to this episode.
what is the best roller coaster tycoon game?
The best roller coaster Tycoon 2.
Okay, got it. I think it's the one my husband loves too, which makes sense.
It's actually open RCT now. This is also great, by the way. Sorry, I could go on with this forever.
Okay.
I have a continue. Sorry, I won't.
Okay.
Yeah. RCT.
Gershwin or Copeland?
Ooh, Gershwin.
All right. Dream car, make and model.
Lamborghini Huracan in matte highlighter yellow.
Ooh, okay. Dream piano, make and model.
Steinway Model D.
Nice.
That's probably kind of like a basic bitch answer, to be honest, but like that's
If it's the answer, that's the answer. That's the thing at the end of the day, ultimately, yeah.
Yeah, Steinway Model D.
What's the best All-American Reject song?
Move along.
Okay. In terms of accomplishing things as in furry as quickly as you have, would you call yourself the Caleb Dressel of the fandom?
No, I would not. Caleb Dressel is wildly more accomplished in swimming than I am in furry. So.
Okay. So far, yet to be seen, to be seen. If you do me the favor, please flash rank every movie in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
All three of them. So
there's more than three.
No, there's only three. So number one, okay. my favorite one is Outworld's End, and then number two is Dead Man's Chest, and number three is Black Pearl. But you have to, if you want to watch Outworld's End, you have to watch the first two in order to get there. So it's like prerequisites. And then if you must acknowledge the existence, I don't even know if there three more, I can't remember.
I like you said that I'm just like there's more than three. Yes, there is On Stranger Tides and then Dead Men Tell No Tales. Yes.
Yeah, I've watched each of those movies I think once, and they're both terrible, so I didn't watch them again. But Outworld's End is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay. It's not like you have several videos about it or anything, but just wanted to highlight. Exactly. Yeah. All right. And last but not least, the final question. If you were to pick a guest for this podcast, now that you've gone through the gamut, who would you recommend that we speak to?
Oh, I would love to hear from Cybe. Do you know who Cybe is?
I don't.
He's
do you know?
He doesn't do much on like social media and stuff, but I'll send you his social media and stuff. I just think he has the coolest suit in the world, and he was such a sweetheart at FWA, and I'm like obsessed with his suit, and he's a nice guy. Cybe was like my first suit crush, and when I finally met at FWA, I was like super stoked. So yeah,
nice.
I want to hear him on the pod.
How do you spell that?
Cybie. I think his actual suit's name is Cyber, but he goes by Cybe.
I like Cybe. It's cute. It's cute. You know what else is cute? The time that we got to spend with you on this main episode here. Rorschach, more than anything, truly, and I do mean this, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time. We genuinely appreciate it profoundly.
Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Indeed.
Yeah. And for anyone else, listen, thank you so much for making it to this podcast. If you would do us the kindness, just as you listen to it, if you're whatever you're listening to it, just leave a review if you're not done it already. It's the small things that count. It helps push the show and do stuff. We're not doing ads and stuff. We're doing it because we love it. So, anything like that is a big help. But most importantly, thank you for listening. We hope to catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.